Tonight, we will not fight the mind. We will not try to force it into submission. Instead, we will embark on a gentle journey into the heart of Zen wisdom. These teachings, honed over centuries, are not complicated philosophies to be memorized. They are simple, profound truths that act like a gentle hand, guiding us away from the noise of our thoughts and back to the quiet sanctuary that exists within us. They are invitations to see our own minds, not as enemies to be conquered, but as a vast sky that can hold every cloud of thought and emotion. We will explore this path through quiet stories and simple practices, learning not to silence the mind, but to find a peace that is not disturbed by its movement. Welcome to Sleepy Monk. This is your space, a refuge where you can lay down your burdens and be held in stillness. There is nothing you need to accomplish here, no state of mind you need to achieve. Simply allow my voice to be a gentle guide. Let these words be like a quiet stream, washing over you, carrying away the dust of the day. For now, all that is asked of you is to breathe, to feel the gentle rise and fall of your own body. Our path into stillness begins with a kind and honest look at the nature of our own mind. It starts by acknowledging the constant hum of activity, the restless energy that so often keeps us awake. In Zen, this is sometimes called the monkey mind, a beautiful and accurate description of the way our awareness leaps from one branch of thought to another without rest, grabbing for a worry, then a memory, then a fantasy, in an endless, agitated dance. This is not a sign that you are broken. It is the untrained nature of the mind. The path to peace does not lie in caging the monkey, but in learning to sit with it, to watch its antics with a gentle, friendly patience until it, too, learns to be still. There is an old story of a young painter named Kai who lived in a village at the edge of a great, still lake. Kai's one ambition was to paint the perfect reflection of the full moon on the water's surface. He wanted to capture its perfect, silver stillness, its serene and silent light. Each month, on the night of the full moon, he would take his finest brushes and silks down to the shore. But each time, he would be defeated by the slightest imperfection. A gentle breeze would send 1,000 tiny ripples across the water, shattering the moon into a shimmering dance of light. A fish would jump, and the rings of its splash would distort the perfect circle. An insect would land on the surface, sending out subtle tremors. Frustrated, Kai tried to control the lake. He would throw small pebbles into the water, hoping to cancel out the ripples, but this only created more chaos. He would hold his breath, as if his own stillness could command the lake to be still. He grew more and more agitated, and his paintings were tight, frustrated, and lifeless. One night, an old monk who lived in a small temple on the mountainside came down to the shore and saw the young painter's distress. He watched for a while as Kai grumbled at the wind and scowled at the dancing reflection. The monk sat down on a rock beside him. "The water is a very poor student, is it not?" the monk said softly. "It refuses to be still for you." Kai, exasperated, turned to the monk. "Master, how can I capture the moon when the water will not cooperate? How can I find stillness in all this movement?" The monk did not answer directly. Instead, he pointed to the lake. "You are trying to paint the moon," he said, "but you are refusing to paint the water. You see the ripples as a flaw, an enemy to your art. But are they? The shimmering, the dancing, the constant change. That is the water's nature. It is not an obstacle to the moon's reflection. It is the way the water reflects the moon. He then gestured for Kai to put down his brushes. For tonight, the monk said, do not be a painter. Be the lake. Simply sit. Feel the breeze on your skin as the water feels it. When a thought of frustration arises, let it be a ripple. Do not fight it. Do not try to smooth it. Just watch it spread and then dissolve. Watch the thoughts. Watch the water. Watch the moon. Do not try to make them be anything other than what they are. Kai, having no other ideas, did as the monk said. He sat in the quiet darkness, and for the first time, he simply observed. He watched his own thoughts of impatience arise and fade. He watched the water shimmer and move. And in that watching, a deep quietness settled over him. He realized his own agitation was the biggest disturbance of all. After a long while, the wind died down. The water became a perfect black mirror. The moon hung in it, silent and perfect. But now, Kai's desire to paint it had changed. He saw that the beauty was not just in the stillness, but in the entire process. He had found his peace not by forcing the lake to be still, but by allowing his own mind to be. The story of Kai and the lake is the story of our relationship with our own minds at night. We lie in bed and, like the painter, we demand a perfect stillness. We want a mind that is a flawless mirror so that we can fall asleep. Any thought, any worry, any memory that arises, we see as an enemy, a ripple destroying our peace. We try to force it to be still. We tell ourselves, I have to stop thinking. We try to push the thoughts away, which is like Kai throwing pebbles into the lake. This struggle, this resistance, is what creates the agitation that keeps us awake. The wisdom of Zen invites us to a radically different approach. It asks us to put down our brushes, to let go of our agenda, and to simply become the observer. Your mind is the lake. The thoughts are the ripples. They are not a mistake. They are the natural activity of the mind. They are not an obstacle to your peace. They are simply what the mind is doing in this moment. Peace is found not in the absence of thoughts, but in changing our relationship to them. When we can sit on the shore of our own awareness and watch the ripples of thought come and go, without getting caught in them, without judging them, without needing them to be different, we discover a deep and profound stillness that was there all along. This is the stillness of the observer, the silent, spacious awareness that holds all the mental activity. It is like the vast silent night sky that holds both the moon and the passing clouds. The clouds can never stain the sky. Your thoughts can never stain the pure awareness that is your true nature. To bring this wisdom into your own experience right now, you can practice becoming the gentle observer of your own mind. You do not need to sit in a special posture. You can do this lying here, ready for sleep. The first step is to simply acknowledge what is present. Without judgment, just notice the quality of your mind. Is it busy? Is it calm? Is it worried? Whatever is there, just let it be. There is no need to change it. Next, gently bring your attention to the physical sensation of your breath. Feel the air moving in and feel the air moving out. The breath is your anchor. It is always in the present moment. It is the rock on the shore where you can sit and watch the lake of your mind. Now, as thoughts inevitably arise, your practice is simply to notice them. You don't need to follow them, analyze them, or push them away. You can just label them softly in your mind. A thought about tomorrow arises, and you can gently say to yourself, planning. A memory from today appears, and you can say, remembering. A wave of anxiety washes through, and you can note, worrying. The label is not to judge the thought, but to recognize it as a passing mental event, a ripple on the water. It is a way of seeing the thought without becoming the thought. After you have noted it, gently, kindly guide your awareness back to the anchor of your breath. Your mind will wander 100 times, and your practice is simply to guide it back 100 times. Each time you bring your attention back, you do so with the gentle patience of the old monk. There is no frustration, no sense of failure. Every return to the breath is a moment of success. It is a moment of waking up from the dream of thought and resting in the peace of the present. Let the thoughts be the clouds, let the breath be your anchor, and let yourself rest as the vast, open sky. Let us pause here for a moment. Feel the gentle rhythm of your own breath, a quiet anchor in the flow of time. Allow your body to soften, releasing any tension you might be holding. Let the edges of your day melt into this quiet space of rest. We continue our journey by exploring a truth that can feel counterintuitive in our modern world. It is the wisdom of non-doing. Our lives are often built around effort, striving, and achievement. From the moment we wake up, we are in a state of doing, working, planning, organizing, fixing. We are taught that success comes from trying harder. This mindset is so deeply ingrained that we bring it with us to bed. We see sleep not as a natural process of surrender, but as another task to be accomplished, another goal to be achieved. We lie down and we think, I need to fall asleep now, and then we begin to try. This very effort, this striving, is often the very thing that keeps sleep at bay. Zen wisdom invites us to explore the profound power of Wu Wei, or effortless action, the art of letting go of the struggle and allowing things to happen in their own time. In a village known for its skilled woodworkers, there lived a young carpenter named Lin. Lin was strong and ambitious, and he believed that the key to mastery was force and control. When he worked with a piece of wood, he would fight it. If the grain was difficult, he would use all his strength to force his chisel through it. If a board was warped, he would try to clamp it into submission. His workshop was a place of struggle, filled with the sounds of grunting, splintering wood, and frustrated sighs. His work was functional, but it was always rigid, lacking the life and grace of the pieces made by the old master of the village. The old master, whose name was Wei, worked in a small, quiet workshop by the river. He was old and frail, yet his creations were fluid and beautiful. People said he did not carve the wood, but simply revealed the shapes that were already hiding within it. One day, Lin, humbled by another day of fighting a stubborn piece of oak, went to watch the master work. He was astonished. Wei seemed to exert almost no effort. His hands moved in a slow, patient dance with the wood. He would spend a long time just holding a piece of timber, feeling its weight, tracing its grain with his fingers, as if he were listening to it. His chisel did not seem to cut the wood, but to follow a path that the wood itself offered. "Master," Lin said, "I use all my strength, and my work is clumsy. You use almost no strength, and your work is alive. What is your secret?" Wei smiled and put down his tools. He picked up 2 small sticks from the floor. "This," he said, holding up one stick horizontally, "is your will. And this," holding the other stick vertically, "is the will of the wood, the way it grew, its own nature. You try to force your will directly against the wood's will," he said, pressing the 2 sticks together in a cross shape. "There is much effort, much resistance, much splintering." Then he took the stick representing his will and laid it alongside the stick representing the wood, pointing in the same direction. "I do not place my will against the wood," he said softly. "I listen to the wood. I learn its nature, its strengths, its weaknesses. And then I place my will alongside its own. We travel in the same direction. There is no struggle. The wood shows me how it wants to be shaped, and I simply help it along. The art is not in forcing, but in listening and aligning." The old master's wisdom is the very heart of the practice of falling asleep. Sleep, like the grain of the wood, has its own nature, its own will. It is a natural process of the body and mind, a state of deep surrender. It cannot be forced by our will. The more we try to clamp it down and control it, the more it resists. When we lie in bed, our minds buzzing with the command, "Sleep now," we are pressing our will against the natural flow. This creates tension, anxiety, and a state of hyper-arousal that is the exact opposite of the state required for sleep. We check the clock, calculating how many hours we have left. We get frustrated with our own minds. We are at war with the present moment, trying to force a future state of being to arrive. This is the struggle of Lin in his workshop. The wisdom of non-doing invites us to become like the Master Wei. It invites us to stop fighting and start listening. It asks us to align ourselves with the natural process of rest, rather than command it. This means letting go of the goal of falling asleep. It sounds paradoxical, but the moment we release the desperate need to sleep is often the moment the door to sleep can finally open. This is a profound act of trust. It is trusting that your body knows how to rest. It is trusting that if you simply create the right conditions, a quiet room, a comfortable bed, and a mind that is at ease, sleep will arise naturally, in its own time. The art is not in trying to sleep, but in letting go of everything that stands in the way of sleep. To practice this art of non-doing, you can begin by shifting your intention. As you lie here, consciously let go of the goal of falling asleep. Replace it with the simple intention to rest. Resting is something you can do. Sleeping is something that happens. Let your only job for the next little while be to rest your body and mind as best you can. Begin with the body. Bring your awareness to all the points where your body is making contact with the surface beneath you. Feel the weight of your head on the pillow. Feel the weight of your shoulders, your back, your hips, your legs. With each exhalation, imagine you are letting go just a little bit more, allowing yourself to be held completely. Let gravity do the work. You do not need to hold yourself up. You can surrender your weight. Next, bring this attitude of surrender to your muscles. Gently scan your awareness through your body, and wherever you notice tension, simply acknowledge it without needing to fix it. Notice the small muscles around your eyes. You do not need to try to relax them. Simply bring your awareness there and give them permission to be soft. Notice your jaw. Invite it to release its grip. Notice your shoulders. Invite them to drop away from your ears. This is not another task. It is a gentle allowing, a process of letting go. Finally, extend this attitude to your mind. Allow your thoughts to come and go without needing to control them. Let them be there. Your only task is to rest in the awareness behind the thoughts. You can use a gentle, silent phrase to support this state of surrender. With each inhalation, you might say to yourself, "I have nothing to do." And with each exhalation, "I have nowhere to go." This is a radical act of contentment with the present moment. You are not trying to get to sleep. You are resting fully, right here, right now. By ceasing the struggle, you are creating the perfect conditions for the grain of the wood to reveal its true shape. You are allowing the river of rest to carry you effortlessly into the deep ocean of sleep. Our journey now brings us to the importance of finding our center. So much of our modern life pulls our energy upwards and outwards. Our attention is constantly drawn out to screens, to sounds, to the demands of others. Our mental energy gets concentrated in our heads, caught in the endless loops of thinking, analyzing, and worrying. This can leave us feeling ungrounded, scattered, and top-heavy, like a tree with no roots. At night, when the external distractions fall away, this feeling of being uncentered can amplify, turning into a free-floating anxiety. We feel untethered, adrift in a sea of thoughts. The wisdom traditions of Zen teach that true stability and calm are found not by engaging with the chaos in the head, but by dropping our awareness down into the quiet, solid center of the body. There is a story of a young woman named Akemi who wished to become a master archer. She had a keen eye and a strong arm, and when she practiced alone in her courtyard, her arrows flew with grace and precision, finding the center of the target almost every time. But whenever she entered a competition, her skill would desert her. The presence of the crowd, the gaze of the judges, the pressure to perform, all of it would create a storm of anxiety in her mind. Her thoughts would race. What if I miss? They are all watching me. I must not fail. This inner turmoil would travel down into her body. Her shoulders would tense. Her breath would become shallow, and her hands would tremble just slightly. Her arrows would fly wide of the mark. Disheartened, she sought the guidance of a Zen master who was also a legendary archer. The master watched her shoot. He saw her technical skill, but he also saw the subtle tremor of anxiety that ran through her. He did not give her advice on her form, her aim, or her technique. Instead, he told her to put down her bow. For the next month, her only training was to stand still for an hour each morning. Your problem is not in your arms or your eyes, the master said. It is in your roots. You are a leaf in the wind. You must become the tree. He instructed her to place her hands on her lower abdomen, a few inches below her navel. This, he said, is your hara, your center. It is the root of your energy. All the frantic thoughts in your head are like leaves rustling in a storm. Do not waste your energy trying to calm the leaves. Bring your attention down, out of the storm in your head, and into the silent earth of your center. Breathe into this place. Feel its solidity. Learn to live here. Akemi practiced this diligently. At first, it was frustrating. Her mind would constantly wander back up into its usual patterns of worry, but she would gently guide it back down, again and again, to the quiet feeling of her breath in her belly. Slowly, she began to feel a change. She felt more grounded, more solid, as if she were drawing energy up from the earth itself. The constant chatter in her head did not disappear, but it seemed more distant, less important. It was just the sound of the wind. It was no longer her. When the master finally allowed her to pick up her bow again, she stepped onto the range with a new sense of presence. The crowd was still there, the pressure was still there, but she had a place to anchor herself. As the familiar thoughts of fear arose, she did not fight them. She simply kept her awareness rooted in her center, in the slow, deep rhythm of her breath. She drew the bow, her arms relaxed, her mind quiet, her energy coming from that deep, stable place. The arrow flew, silent and true, and buried itself in the very center of the target. Akemi's journey from the head to the hara is the journey we are all invited to take, especially when we are seeking rest. The storm of anxiety, the endless what-ifs, the replaying of conversations. This is the chaos of the leaves. We cannot think our way to peace. Trying to solve anxiety with more thinking is like trying to put out a fire with oil. It only adds more fuel. The wisdom of Zen offers a direct and powerful alternative. Shift the location of your awareness. Drop your attention out of the spinning mind and into the felt sense of the body, specifically into this physical center of gravity. This center, or hara, is a place of immense stillness and power. It is not a concept or an idea. It is a direct, physical experience. When you rest your attention here, your breath naturally deepens. Your nervous system begins to calm down. You feel heavier, more stable, more connected to the earth. This practice does not eliminate the thoughts, but it takes away their fuel. By unhooking your awareness from the storyline of your worries, and anchoring it in the simple physical reality of your body, the thoughts lose their power over you. They may continue to rustle, but you are no longer a leaf being tossed about by them. You are the tree, rooted, grounded, and unshakably present. This shift from thinking to feeling is one of the most direct paths to the deep calm that precedes sleep. To begin cultivating this connection to your center, you can practice a simple grounding meditation right now. As you lie here, if it feels right, you can gently place one or both of your hands on your lower abdomen. This physical touch can help guide your awareness. Now, begin to direct your breath into this space. As you inhale, imagine the breath traveling all the way down, beneath your hands, filling your belly like a soft balloon. As you exhale, feel the gentle falling, the release. Don't force the breath. Just create a gentle invitation for it to deepen. Feel the warmth from your hands sinking into your body. Feel the gentle, rhythmic movement under your hands. Let this be the entire focus of your attention. Your mind will surely wander back up into thought. When it does, notice this without any criticism. Acknowledge the thought, and then gently, patiently, guide your awareness back down to the feeling of warmth and movement in your center. You can imagine that with every exhalation, you are sinking a little deeper into the mattress, becoming heavier, more solid. You can visualize a small, warm, heavy ball of golden light in your hara, an anchor of calm and stability. When a wave of worry or a distracting thought passes through your mind, imagine it is just a cloud high up in the sky. You are not the cloud. You are resting deep below, rooted to the earth, grounded in the quiet, stable center of your own being. Let this feeling of groundedness be your refuge tonight. There is no need to go anywhere or solve anything. Simply rest here at your core and let the world spin on without you for a while. Having found a sense of groundedness in our center, we can now look at the contents of our minds with a softer, kinder gaze. So often, what keeps us awake at night is the voice of our own inner judge. As the world goes quiet, this internal critic can become loud, replaying the day's events and pointing out every mistake, every perceived failure, every moment we fell short of our own ideals. We lie in bed and audit our performance, holding ourselves up to a standard of perfection that we would never demand of a friend. This relentless self-criticism is exhausting. It creates a state of internal conflict that is the enemy of rest. Zen wisdom offers a powerful antidote to this poison of perfectionism. It is the gentle and profound teaching of wabi-sabi, the art of finding beauty in the imperfect. There is a story told of a young potter named Kenji who was obsessed with perfection. He worked tirelessly at his wheel, his brow furrowed in concentration, his goal to create the perfect tea bowl. For him, this meant a bowl that was flawlessly symmetrical, with a smooth, unbroken glaze and a weight that was perfectly balanced. He was a gifted craftsman, but his obsession was his torment. For every bowl he kept, he would smash 100. The slightest wobble in the rim, the tiniest bubble in the glaze, the faintest trace of an unintended fingerprint, and he would cast the piece aside in disgust. His workshop floor was a graveyard of his own high expectations. One day, the most respected tea master in the province announced he was passing through the village. It was a great honor. The village elder asked Kenji to create a bowl worthy of being used by the master. This was the chance Kenji had been waiting for, the ultimate test of his skill. He threw himself into his work with a desperate intensity. For weeks, he barely ate or slept. He made bowl after bowl, each one more technically perfect than the last, but none of them felt right. They were cold, sterile, lacking a soul. The day before the master's arrival, in a fit of despair, Kenji smashed his latest, most perfect creation. He had nothing left. Sitting among the shards, utterly defeated, his eyes fell upon a bowl he had discarded weeks earlier. It was a simple, humble bowl he had made absent-mindedly at the end of a long day. It was deeply imperfect. One side was slightly higher than the other, and a small, dark crack had appeared in the glaze during the firing, a mark he had previously seen as an unforgivable flaw. But now, in his state of surrender, he saw it differently. He saw the gentle curve of the lopsided rim. He saw the way the crack gave the bowl a history, a story. It felt real. It felt alive. Having no other choice, he humbly presented this imperfect bowl to the tea master the next day. The master accepted the bowl, held it in his hands, and was silent for a long time. He turned it over and over, his thumb gently tracing the line of the small crack. Kenji held his breath, expecting to be shamed, but then the master looked up, and his eyes were filled with a deep appreciation. "This," the master said softly, "is a bowl that understands tea. It is a bowl that understands life. It does not pretend to be something it is not. Its flaw tells the story of its journey through the fire. It is beautiful." The tea master's wisdom speaks directly to the heart of wabi-sabi. It is a worldview that finds beauty not in sterile perfection, but in the authentic, humble, and transient nature of life itself. A wabi-sabi heart sees the beauty in a weathered stone, a gnarled old tree, or a tea bowl with a crack. It understands that these imperfections are not signs of failure. They are marks of existence, signatures of time, testaments to a life that has been lived. We are so often like the young potter Kenji, obsessed with our own perfection. We try to present a flawless version of ourselves to the world. We hide our cracks, our vulnerabilities, our perceived flaws. And at night, our inner critic torments us for every part of ourselves that does not match this impossible ideal. This creates a constant, low-level war within us. The teaching of wabi-sabi is an invitation to lay down our arms. It is a profound act of self-acceptance. It is the permission to be human. Your life, your mind, your body, your day will never be perfect. You will make mistakes. You will have moments of weakness. You will have flaws and scars. The path of wisdom is not to erase these imperfections, but to learn to hold them with the same tenderness and appreciation that the tea master showed to the bowl. It is to learn to trace the lines of our own cracks, not with judgment, but with a compassionate finger, recognizing that these are the very marks that tell our unique story. They are what make us real, what give us character, what make us beautiful. To practice embracing your own beautiful imperfection, especially at the end of the day, you can engage in a gentle reflection. Instead of letting your mind default to a critical review of your shortcomings, you can consciously guide it towards self-compassion. As you lie here, allow a moment from your day to come to mind where you felt you were not at your best. Perhaps a moment of impatience, a mistake at work, an awkward conversation. Feel the usual sting of self-judgment that might arise with this memory. Notice it without getting lost in it. Now, instead of feeding the critic, imagine you are the old tea master, holding this moment in your hands. Look at it with kind, wise eyes. See the humanity in it. See the tired person who made the mistake, the stressed person who spoke impatiently. Can you find a drop of compassion for that person? Instead of judgment, offer a silent phrase of kindness. You might say to yourself, "It is okay to make mistakes," or "I did the best I could in that moment," or simply, "I am human." Another practice is to visualize that perceived flaw, that crack in your being, and instead of wishing it away, imagine you are practicing the art of kintsugi, the Japanese practice of mending broken pottery with gold lacquer. Imagine a warm, liquid gold light of compassion pouring into that crack. See it not as a way to hide the flaw, but to illuminate it, to honor it, to make it beautiful. Let this golden light of acceptance fill all the places in you where you feel broken or inadequate. This is not about condoning harmful behavior. It is about ending the cycle of self-hatred that often fuels that very behavior. It is about understanding that true change and growth can only happen from a foundation of self-acceptance. Tonight, let go of the need to be perfect. Give yourself the grace you so freely offer to others. You are the imperfect bowl, and you are beautiful, not in spite of your cracks, but because of them. Let's pause here again, just for a moment. Take a slow, deep breath. Let the air fill your lungs completely, and then release it with a gentle sigh. Feel your body sinking a little deeper into the surface that supports it. Let go of the day. Let go of the need to be anywhere else. You are here in this quiet space, and that is enough. As we learn to accept our own imperfections, we can turn our attention to one of the most fundamental truths of existence, a truth that, once embraced, can dissolve a vast amount of our anxiety. It is the teaching of impermanence. Our minds instinctively try to create a sense of solid ground in a world that is constantly shifting. We cling to the things we love, whether it is a moment of happiness, a cherished relationship, or our own youth and health, desperately wishing they would last forever. This clinging is a source of profound tension. We live with a subtle, underlying fear of loss. At night, this can manifest as anxiety about the future, a worry that the stability we have now might be taken away. We also cling to our pain, our identities, and our stories, afraid to let them go. The Buddha's teaching on impermanence, or anicca, is not a pessimistic declaration that everything fades. It is a liberating invitation to stop resisting the natural, graceful flow of life. There is a tale of a great king who possessed an empire of immense wealth and power. He had everything a person could desire, yet he was a deeply anxious man. His greatest joy was to watch the clouds from the highest tower of his palace. He loved their magnificent shapes, their brilliant colors at sunrise and sunset. He saw them as symbols of perfection and beauty, but his joy was always tinged with sadness because he knew that the most beautiful cloud would inevitably drift away, change its shape, and disappear. This transience tormented him. He became obsessed with the idea of possessing one perfect cloud. He wanted to capture it, to freeze it in time, so he could admire its beauty forever without the fear of losing it. He summoned the greatest minds in his kingdom. "I want you to capture for me the most beautiful cloud in the sky," he commanded. His architects designed a colossal tower that reached up into the heavens. His engineers constructed a gigantic net of the finest, strongest silk. His scientists devised a way to house the cloud in a massive, airtight crystal chamber in his throne room. After years of effort and an immense expenditure of the kingdom's treasury, the day came. They targeted a magnificent, golden-edged cloud drifting majestically in the afternoon sun. With incredible difficulty, they managed to capture a large part of it in their great net and seal it within the crystal chamber. The king was ecstatic. He had done the impossible. He had conquered impermanence. But as he sat on his throne to admire his prize, a strange thing began to happen. The magnificent cloud, cut off from the wind and the sun and the sky, began to lose its shape. Its brilliant golden edges faded. It slowly shrank, turning into a formless grey fog. Then the fog condensed, and what was left at the bottom of the great crystal chamber was nothing more than a few puddles of very ordinary, murky water. The king stared in horror. The very act of possessing the cloud had destroyed the beauty he sought to preserve. At that moment, a humble gardener who had been tending to the plants in the throne room spoke softly. "Your Majesty," he said, "you can only love a cloud when you let it be free. Its beauty is not in its form, but in its flowing." The king's folly is our own. We all try, in our own ways, to capture the clouds of our experience and seal them in a crystal box. We have a moment of perfect happiness, a wonderful vacation, a feeling of deep connection with a loved one, and our mind immediately says, "I want to keep this. I don't want this to end." This desire, this clinging, is the beginning of anxiety. It pulls us out of the direct experience of the beautiful moment and into a fearful preoccupation with its inevitable passing. We stop enjoying the cloud and start worrying about the net. The wisdom of impermanence is the wisdom of the gardener. True peace and joy are found in letting life flow, in loving the clouds without needing to possess them. This teaching has two sides. When we are experiencing something painful, a difficult emotion, a period of hardship, The remembrance of impermanence is a great comfort. This too shall pass. The storm cloud of sadness or anger that feels so solid and all-consuming right now is, in its nature, transient. It will change. It will dissolve. Knowing this allows us to endure our pain with more patience and less fear. We don't have to fight it so hard. We can allow it to move through us, knowing it is a temporary weather pattern. The other side is even more profound. When we are experiencing something joyful, the remembrance of impermanence allows us to love it more deeply and appreciate it more fully. Instead of anxiously trying to hold on, we can relax and be completely present for the experience, savoring its preciousness. We can appreciate the beauty of this particular sunset, knowing it will never be exactly the same again. This transforms our clinging into gratitude. We stop taking life for granted and begin to see every moment as a unique and unrepeatable gift. To integrate this liberating wisdom into your being, you can use your own breath as your teacher. The breath is a perfect embodiment of impermanence. It is in constant flow. Every inhalation is a birth. There is a brief pause. Every exhalation is a death, a letting go, which creates the space for the next inhalation to arise. You cannot hold on to the breath. To try to hold the in-breath is to suffocate. To live is to participate in this continuous rhythm of arising and passing away. As you lie here, bring your full, gentle attention to this rhythm. Feel the entire journey of one in-breath, from its beginning to its end. And then feel the entire journey of one out-breath. Notice the subtle, constant change. There is nothing to hold on to. Simply rest in this flow. This is the rhythm of the universe, and it is happening within you in every moment. Now, you can extend this practice to the events of your day. As you continue to breathe gently, allow the moments of your day to drift through your mind. A conversation, a meal, a moment of frustration, a moment of ease. See each one as a cloud that appeared in the sky of your mind. As you inhale, you can acknowledge the memory. As you exhale, you can practice letting it go. You are not trying to erase it or push it away. You are simply acknowledging that its time is over. It has passed. Let your exhale be a gentle release of your grip on the past. This practice is particularly helpful for pleasant moments that your mind wants to cling to, and for unpleasant moments that your mind wants to resist. With each breath out, you are training the mind in the graceful art of letting go. You are learning to be like the open sky, allowing all the clouds of experience to drift by without needing to capture a single one. This is freedom. This is peace. This is the wisdom that allows you to rest deeply, at ease with the beautiful, ever-changing flow of life. As we come to accept the flowing, impermanent nature of our experience, we are led to an even more subtle and profound insight. We often feel overwhelmed by our own minds. The sheer volume of thoughts, memories, worries, and plans can feel like a dense, crowded, and sometimes suffocating inner world. We experience our thoughts as being very solid and very real, and most importantly, we experience them as being me. We believe that we are the thinker of the thoughts, the voice in our head. This identification can make us feel trapped, as if we are locked in a small room with a relentless commentator. Zen practice invites us to question this assumption, to look for the space behind the content, the silence that holds the noise. This is the gateway to understanding the liberating wisdom of emptiness. There is a story of a young apprentice who wished to learn the art of calligraphy from a great Zen master. The apprentice, named Ren, was taught to draw the enso, a circle drawn in a single, fluid brushstroke. In Zen, the enso symbolizes the universe, enlightenment, and the void. Ren practiced for months, but he was frustrated. He was completely focused on the brush, the ink, the line. He tried to control every aspect of the stroke to make a perfect, closed, solid black circle. His circles were always stiff, heavy, and lifeless. They looked less like symbols of the universe and more like black cages. One day, the master came to watch him practice. He saw the tension in Ren's shoulders, the tight grip on his brush, the intense focus on the black ink. The master took a fresh piece of paper. He did not pick up a brush. He simply sat and looked at the clean, white expanse of the paper. "Ren," he said, "you are trying to draw a circle. All your attention is on what you are adding, on the ink. You are ignoring what is already here." He gestured to the empty page. "This is not nothing. This is not a void to be filled. This is a living space. The ink does not create the circle. The ink simply reveals the circle that is already possible within this space. The circle is made just as much of the paper inside it and the paper outside it as it is of the ink. The ink gives it a form, but the emptiness gives it a life. Stop trying to paint a thing and instead learn to feel the space. The space is not your enemy, it is your partner." Ren was puzzled, but he trusted his master. He stopped practicing his strokes, and instead, for many days, he would simply sit and meditate on the empty paper. He learned to feel the vast, silent potential in that white space. When he finally picked up his brush again, his intention had shifted. He was no longer trying to impose a black line onto a page. He dipped his brush, and with one deep, centered breath, he allowed a circle to emerge from the silence. The stroke was fluid, effortless, and alive. And for the first time, his circle was not a cage, but a window into a vast, open universe. The apprentice's discovery is a profound metaphor for the practice of meditation and the discovery of inner peace. Our thoughts, worries, and emotions are the ink strokes. We are usually completely identified with them. We believe they are solid, real, and that they define who we are. We feel crowded and trapped by their constant activity. The wisdom of shunyata, or emptiness, is the master's advice to feel the space. Emptiness in this context does not mean a nihilistic nothingness. It means that our thoughts and feelings are empty of a solid, independent existence. They are like the ink stroke. They cannot exist without the paper, the silent, spacious consciousness in which they appear. This consciousness, this awareness, is like the empty space on the page. It is always here, silent, vast, and peaceful, underneath and around all the noise of our thinking. It is never disturbed by the content of our minds, just as the paper is not truly damaged by the ink. Peace does not come from trying to stop the thoughts, from trying to wipe the page clean. Peace comes from shifting our attention, our sense of identity, from the ink strokes of thought to the vast, open paper of awareness itself. When we realize that we are not the thoughts, but the space in which the thoughts are happening, a profound sense of freedom arises. We are no longer trapped inside the black circle of our worries. We are the entire page, holding it all with a quiet, spacious ease. To experience this for yourself, you can practice shifting your attention from the content of your mind to the context that holds it. This is a subtle but powerful practice. Begin by becoming aware of the sounds around you, perhaps the hum of a fan, a distant car, or the sound of your own breathing. These sounds are like the ink strokes. Now see if you can listen not just to the sounds, but to the silence out of which the sounds are arising. Can you sense the vast field of quiet that is allowing these sounds to be heard? That silence is always here. You don't have to create it, you just have to notice it. Now, turn this same form of listening inward. Become aware of the thoughts moving through your mind. See them as inner sounds or images. They are the content. Now, can you become aware of the silence that is behind your thoughts? Can you get a sense of the quiet, still awareness that is witnessing these thoughts? When a thought ends, before the next one begins, there is a tiny gap, a moment of pure silence. Can you notice that gap? Can you rest in it even for an instant? This is not about trying to make the gaps longer or trying to stop your thoughts. It is simply about becoming more interested in the space than in the furniture. You can use a gentle inquiry. As a thought arises, you can ask yourself, what is it that is aware of this thought? Don't look for a verbal answer. Instead, feel into the silent, knowing presence that is here before the thought, during the thought, and after the thought. This presence is your true nature. It is spacious, peaceful, and free. By gently shifting your identity from the passing thoughts to the timeless awareness that holds them, you discover an unshakable peace that is not dependent on your mind being quiet. You find the freedom of the empty page, a space vast enough to hold the entire universe. When we learn to see the vast, empty space of our own awareness, we realize it is not a cold void, but a space of infinite potential. It is a space that can hold not only our thoughts and worries, but also a boundless capacity for warmth, kindness, and connection. So often, our suffering makes us feel contracted and isolated. We become trapped in the small, lonely world of our own problems. Our hearts, in an attempt to protect themselves, can grow hard and closed. At night, this feeling of separation can be especially acute. The wisdom of the Buddhist path teaches that the ultimate healing for this sense of isolation is the intentional cultivation of compassion for ourselves and for all others. It is the practice of recognizing that we are all interconnected and that an open heart is a peaceful heart. There is a story of a monk named Deva who lived in a monastery perched on a cliffside overlooking a wide, flowing river. Deva was a man of great discipline and intellect. He knew the scriptures inside and out, and his meditation was focused and sharp. But his heart was like a stone. He looked down upon the villagers who lived alongside the river, seeing their chaotic lives, their struggles, and their attachments as signs of their spiritual immaturity. He felt separate from them, above them. He believed the path to enlightenment was a solitary one, a journey of rising above the messiness of the world. One year, a severe drought struck the land. The rains did not come, and the great river began to shrink. Day by day, it receded, leaving behind vast plains of cracked mud. The life of the entire valley, which depended on the river, began to suffer. From his high perch, Deva watched the villagers struggle. He watched the animals grow thin. He felt a cold sense of detachment. This, he thought, is the nature of suffering. It has nothing to do with me. One afternoon, as he was walking along the newly exposed riverbed, he came to a small, isolated pool of muddy water. Trapped in the pool, flapping weakly, was a single, small fish. Deva's first thought was one of philosophical detachment. This is its karma. This is the nature of impermanence. He was about to walk on, but something made him pause. He looked at the fish, its gills gasping for oxygen, its body covered in mud, its life force slowly fading. In that moment, for the first time, he did not see a separate creature whose fate was disconnected from his own. He felt a sudden, sharp pang in his own chest, a reflection of the fish's desperate struggle to breathe. He felt its thirst. He felt its fear. He saw his own struggle for peace, reflected in this tiny creature's struggle for life. The stone wall around his heart cracked. Without another thought, he waded into the mud, gently scooped up the fish in his hands, and carried it down river to where the main channel still flowed, releasing it into the deep water. As he watched it swim away, a profound shift occurred within him. He realized that the river was not just the water flowing in the valley. The river was the flow of life itself that connected him to the fish, to the villagers, to every being. Their suffering was not separate from his. It was a shared experience. He walked back to his monastery not as a man who was above the world, but as a man who was deeply, compassionately, a part of it. His meditation from that day on was no longer a cold, sharp discipline, but a warm, expansive practice of holding all of life in his heart. Deva's awakening by the river is the very essence of compassion, or karuna. It is the moment we stop being a detached observer of suffering and allow ourselves to feel our connection to it. Compassion is not pity, which looks down from above. Compassion is empathy, the ability to feel with another, to recognize our shared vulnerability. It is the sincere wish for all beings to be free from their suffering. This profound state of heart is often paired with its close sibling, metta, or loving kindness, which is the sincere wish for all beings to be happy and well. Together, they are the two wings of the bird of awakening. The intellect and wisdom are one wing, but without the other wing of compassion, we cannot fly. This practice is the most powerful antidote to the states of mind that keep us from rest, fear, anger, judgment, and loneliness. A heart that is judging itself and others is a tense, contracted heart. A heart that is radiating kindness is a soft, open, and relaxed heart. Importantly, this practice must always begin with ourselves. We cannot offer water from a dry well. Many of us find it easier to feel compassion for a suffering animal or a friend than we do for ourselves. We meet our own pain, our own failures, our own anxiety with harshness and impatience. The practice of self-compassion is the radical act of turning this warmth inward. It is learning to hold our own suffering with the same tenderness we would offer to a loved one. When we can do this, when we can be a true friend to ourselves, the feeling of anxious isolation begins to dissolve, and a deep sense of peace can take root. To begin watering the seeds of compassion in your own heart, you can practice a simple loving-kindness meditation as you prepare for sleep. This practice is not about forcing a feeling, but about gently setting an intention. The sincere wish is what matters. Find a comfortable position and, if it feels natural, place a hand over the center of your chest. This physical gesture can be a reminder of tenderness. Begin by offering the kindness to yourself. Silently, slowly, repeat these phrases in your mind, letting them be a gentle wish, a soft prayer. May I be safe. May I be happy. May I be healthy. May I live with ease. As you repeat the phrases, just allow whatever feelings are there to be there. If you feel resistance or unworthiness, just notice that with kindness too, you are simply planting seeds in the soil of your heart. Continue for a few minutes, offering this unconditional goodwill to your own being. After a while, bring to mind someone you love easily, a friend, a family member, a pet. Picture them in your mind and begin to direct the phrases toward them. May you be safe. May you be happy. May you be healthy. May you live with ease. Feel the natural warmth in your heart for this being, and let the words be carried on that warmth. Then, if you feel able, you can expand the circle. You can bring to mind a neutral person, perhaps a neighbor or a co-worker. Offer them the same wishes. Then you can think of all the people in your home, in your city, in your country. Finally, you can extend this wish to all beings everywhere, without exception. May all beings be safe. May all beings be happy. May all beings be healthy. May all beings live with ease. This practice gently dissolves the walls of separation we build around our hearts. It connects us to our shared humanity and our shared wish for peace. It is a soft and gentle way to fall asleep, wrapped not in the cold blanket of worry, but in the boundless warmth of an open and loving heart. Let us pause for a moment. Feel the quiet presence in the center of your chest. Let your breath be soft. Allow your heart to feel spacious and at ease. You are held in a great web of kindness. You are not alone. Having opened our hearts, we can approach our minds with a new sense of possibility. Often, our inner world can feel like a chaotic wilderness, a tangled jungle of thoughts and emotions over which we have no control. We feel we are at the mercy of whatever mood or worry happens to arise, especially in the vulnerable quiet of the night. This feeling of helplessness is a great source of anxiety, but the Buddha's teachings offer a different perspective. They teach that we are not the helpless victims of our minds. We are its gardeners. We may not be able to control the weather or stop every weed seed from blowing in on the wind, but we absolutely have the power to cultivate the soil, to nourish the plants we wish to grow, and to gently remove the weeds that choke the life from the garden. This is the practice of cultivating skillful states of mind. Our mind is this royal garden. The unskillful states of mind, what the Buddha called akusala, are the thorny weeds. These are states like anger, resentment, jealousy, greed, and anxiety. They are called unskillful, not because they are morally evil, but because, quite simply, they lead to suffering for ourselves and for others. They create a thorny, painful, inner landscape. The skillful states, or kusala, are the beautiful flowers and fruit trees. These are states like kindness, compassion, generosity, patience, gratitude, and calm. They are called skillful because they lead directly to happiness, peace, and well-being. Just like the young queen, we can often feel that our minds are hopelessly overgrown with the weeds of worry and fear. We feel that we are engaged in an endless, exhausting battle against them. The wisdom of the gardener teaches us a more skillful way. We must learn to recognize the difference between the weeds and the flowers in our own minds, and our practice becomes twofold. We gently and patiently learn to withdraw our energy and attention from the weeds. A worry about the future is a thorny weed. When we notice it, instead of getting entangled in its story and watering it with our focused attention, we can gently acknowledge it and then turn our minds elsewhere. This is like pulling the weed. It is not an act of aggression, but a simple and firm act of non-engagement. But even more powerfully, we must actively nourish the flowers. We must consciously and intentionally cultivate the skillful states. We can't just wait for gratitude or kindness to spontaneously appear. We must create the conditions for them to grow. This is a profoundly hopeful and empowering teaching. It means that the quality of our inner life is not random. It is a direct result of what we choose to cultivate. To practice being a wise gardener of your mind as you settle into rest, you can use a simple two-step process. The first step is to gently pull a weed. Notice if there is a particularly persistent weed of thought active in your mind right now. Perhaps it is a worry about a problem at work, or a resentment about something someone said. See this thought pattern clearly as a thorny weed that is causing you suffering. You do not need to fight it or hate it. Simply see it for what it is. Then make a conscious, gentle choice not to water it. Withdraw your attention from its storyline. You can say to yourself, "This is not a helpful path for my mind to take right now. I will not follow it." You might have to do this many times, just as a gardener has to pull the same type of weed over and over. Be patient and kind with yourself. The second and more important step is to consciously water a flower. Actively bring to mind something that represents a skillful state. The easiest and most powerful practice for this is gratitude. Scan through your day and find one small thing for which you can feel genuinely grateful. It does not have to be something big. It could be the taste of your morning coffee, a kind word from a friend, the feeling of the sun on your skin, or simply the comfort of your own bed right now. Hold this small memory in your mind. Don't just think about it. Allow yourself to feel the feeling of gratitude in your body. Let it be a warmth in your chest, a softening in your face. Water this seed of gratitude with your full attention for a minute or two. This simple act does more than just distract you from your worries. It actively changes the environment of your mind. It shifts you out of a state of lack and anxiety and into a state of sufficiency and peace. It creates the rich, fertile soil from which a restful night's sleep can grow. You are the gardener. You have the wisdom and the power to cultivate a garden of deep peace within your own heart and mind. The journey we have taken so far, from observing the mind to cultivating the heart, leads us to a central and most vital sanctuary of peace. So much of our inner turmoil arises from one simple fact. We are very rarely ever fully present. Our minds are constantly living in one of two places, the past or the future. We drift into the past, replaying conversations, nursing old hurts, or dwelling on moments of regret. Or we project ourselves into the future, rehearsing for challenges, worrying about what might go wrong, or spinning out endless plans. We are almost never simply here, in this present moment, which is the only place life is actually happening. This constant time travel is the root of so much of our anxiety. But Zen practice offers a profound and simple refuge. It is the discovery that the present moment, when we truly arrive in it, is a gateless gate, a direct doorway into the land of tranquility we have been searching for all along. There is a Zen tale of a man who spent his entire life searching for the legendary gate of tranquility. The ancient scriptures said that beyond this gate lay a hidden kingdom where there was no suffering, no anxiety, and no fear, only a state of perfect, unshakable peace. The man's quest became his life's obsession. He studied old maps, he interviewed sages, and he journeyed to the farthest corners of the earth. He climbed treacherous mountains, crossed vast deserts, and sailed across stormy seas, always looking for this magnificent mythical gate. He imagined it would be made of shimmering jade and inlaid with gold, standing between two great peaks. Years turned into decades, and the man grew old and weary. His hope began to fade. One day, his journey led him to a small, simple hut on a remote mountainside. In the hut lived a wise old hermit. The traveler, his back bent with age and his heart heavy with disappointment, told the hermit his story. "I have spent my whole life searching for the gate of tranquility," he said, his voice cracking with emotion. "I have failed. Can you please tell me where it is before I die?" The old hermit looked at him with eyes full of compassion. He said nothing, but simply gestured for the man to sit. He prepared a pot of tea with slow, mindful movements. He poured a cup and handed it to the traveler. "Tell me," the hermit said softly, "what do you feel in your hands right now?" The traveler, surprised by the question, focused his attention on his hands for the first time in a long time. "I feel the warmth of the cup," he answered. "Good," said the hermit. "And what do you hear?" The traveler listened. "I hear the wind in the pine trees outside your hut and the sound of my own breathing." "And the steam rising from your tea," the hermit continued. "What does it look like as it dances in the air?" The traveler watched the steam, mesmerized by its graceful, ever-changing forms. In that moment, watching the steam, feeling the warmth, hearing the wind, his frantic, searching mind grew still. A sense of peace that he had never known washed over him. He looked at the hermit, his eyes wide with realization. The hermit smiled a deep, knowing smile. "You have been searching the whole world for a great gate to enter," he said. "But the gate of tranquility is not a place you arrive at. It has no gate. It is always here. The feeling of the warm cup in your hands, that is the gate. The sound of the wind, that is the gate. This very breath you are taking right now, that is the gate. You have passed through it 1,000,000 times on your journey, but your mind was always focused on the next mountain to climb, so you never noticed you were already here." The traveler's story is our story. We are all searching for a future state of peace. We believe that tranquility will arrive later, when we solve our money problems, when we fix our relationships, when we achieve our goals, when we finally get a good night's sleep. We treat peace as a destination, a place we need to get to. The most radical and liberating teaching of Zen is that peace is not a destination. It is our starting point. It is the very nature of this present moment, when we are not clouding it with our thoughts about the past and future. The gateless gate is a famous Zen paradox. The way to enter is to realize that you are, and always have been, inside. The only thing that prevents us from experiencing the peace of the present moment is our belief that it is somewhere else. Our thinking mind is the map maker, always trying to chart a course away from the here and now. But all the maps lead away from the treasure. The treasure is always right here, under our feet. When we can let go of our stories, our striving, our desperate search, and simply arrive in the direct, sensory reality of this moment, the gate vanishes, and we find ourselves home. This is not something complex. It is the simplest thing in the world. It is the feeling of your body breathing. It is the sensation of the blanket on your skin. It is the quiet hum in the room. This is reality. And in this simple, direct reality, untangled from our mental stories, there is a profound and simple peace. To practice walking through the gateless gate and finding your refuge in the present moment, you can use your senses as anchors. This practice gently coaxes your attention out of the abstract world of thought and into the tangible reality of the here and now. As you lie here, begin by gently opening your awareness to the sense of hearing. Listen. What sounds can you hear? Don't strain to listen. Just let the sounds come to you. You might hear the faint sound of your own breath. You might hear a quiet hum in the room. You might hear nothing but a deep silence. Whatever is there, just receive it without judgment. Let your awareness be like a vast, open space in which these sounds arise and pass away. Now, bring your awareness to the sense of touch. What can you feel? Notice the points of contact between your body and the bed. Feel the weight of the blankets upon you. Can you feel the sensation of the air on your exposed skin, on your face or hands? Can you feel the subtle internal sensations within your body? A feeling of warmth or coolness or tingling. Just rest your attention in this world of pure sensation without needing to label it or think about it. Just feel. Next, you can bring your awareness to the sense of smell. Without moving, can you detect any subtle sense in the air? Perhaps the clean smell of your pillowcase or the faint scent of the night air. It does not matter if you smell anything or not. The practice is in the gentle act of being open and receptive to the present moment through your senses. Each time you notice your mind has wandered off into a story about yesterday or tomorrow, see that as the traveler looking at his map again. Smile gently at this habit of the mind, and then, kindly and firmly, guide your attention back to the sound of the breath, back to the feeling of the blanket, back to the simple, undeniable reality of this moment. This is the only gate you need, and it is always open. Welcome home. As we learn to rest in the simple, open gate of the present moment, we begin to notice the patterns of our own minds with greater clarity. We may see that, even when we are not lost in the past or future, certain repetitive thoughts and feelings arise again and again, like recurring melodies in a song. We can feel trapped by these habits of mind, as if we are the victim of a mysterious inner force that dictates our moods and our fears. This feeling of being stuck is a deep source of suffering. The wisdom of the Buddha offers a liberating perspective on this experience. It is the teaching of karma, which reveals that we are not the passive victims of our minds, but the active creators of our inner world. There is an old teaching story about a young boy who was wandering in the high mountains and found himself in a vast, circular valley, surrounded on all sides by towering rock faces. He had never been there before, and as a wave of fear and loneliness washed over him, he cried out, "I hate you." Immediately, from the cliffs all around him, a voice echoed back, "I hate you." The boy was startled and grew angry. He thought there was another mean-spirited boy hiding in the rocks, mocking him. He balled his fists and shouted, "You are a coward!" And from all around the valley answered, "You are a coward!" The angrier he got, the more insults he hurled at the valley, and the more insults the valley hurled back at him. Finally, terrified and in tears, he ran down the mountain and back to his home. He told his mother that there was a horrible, angry boy living in the mountain valley who had screamed terrible things at him. His mother, who was a wise woman, understood what had happened. She looked at her son with a gentle smile. "That is the valley of the echo," she said. "The valley has no anger of its own. It only holds what is given to it and gives it back to you. The anger you heard was your own. Go back tomorrow, but this time, when you enter the valley, I want you to shout something different. I want you to shout, 'I love you.'" The boy was skeptical, but he trusted his mother. The next day, he returned to the valley. Taking a deep breath, he shouted, "I love you." And from all around, 100 voices seemed to sing back to him, "I love you." He was filled with a sense of wonder and joy. He had discovered the secret of the valley. He realized he was not a victim of its voice. He was its source. This story is a perfect illustration of the law of karma. Karma is perhaps one of the most misunderstood teachings from the East. It is not a system of cosmic reward and punishment managed by some external judge. It is simply the natural law of cause and effect, as simple and as impersonal as the law of an echo. The valley is your mind. The words you shout are your intentions, your thoughts, and your actions. The echo is the result, the quality of your experience. The Buddha taught that the most crucial element of karma is intention, the volition or will behind an action. It is the quality of our intention that plants the seed. When we shout thoughts of anger, fear, resentment, or self-pity into the valley of our minds become conditioned to echo those very qualities back to us. We create mental habits, neural pathways that make it easier and easier for those same thoughts and feelings to arise in the future. We become trapped in a resonant chamber of our own making, wondering why our inner world is so hostile. This is not a punishment. It is simply the nature of the mind. The most beautiful and empowering part of this teaching is that it is never too late to change the echo. In any given moment, no matter how much negativity has been echoed in the past, we have the power to shout a new word into the valley. We can consciously choose to introduce a thought of kindness, a moment of gratitude, an intention of patience. At first, this new shout might seem drowned out by the old echoes, but if we persist, if we continue to consciously cultivate skillful intentions, the entire resonance of our mind begins to change. The old, painful echoes fade, and the new, beautiful echoes grow stronger. We are not the victims of our mental habits. We are their architects. To work skillfully with karma as you prepare for rest, you can practice becoming the conscious creator of your own inner echo. The first step is to listen with mindful awareness. When you notice a recurring, painful thought loop, a familiar echo of worry or self-criticism, your first job is not to fight it. Fighting the echo only makes more noise. Your job is to recognize it for what it is, an old habit, an old shout from the past coming back. You can say to yourself, this is the echo of worry. I know this sound. This simple act of recognition creates a space of awareness. You are no longer lost in the echo. You are the one who is hearing it. The second step is to consciously introduce a new sound. This is not about arguing with the old echo or trying to suppress it. It is about gently and intentionally adding a new, more skillful intention into the mix. If the echo is worry, the new shout could be a silent phrase of trust, such as, "In this moment, all is well," or "I can handle whatever comes." If the echo is self-criticism, the new shout is an act of self-compassion. You can place a hand on your heart and whisper to yourself, "May I be kind to myself." If the echo is resentment toward another person, the new shout can be a simple wish for their well-being. May you be at peace. This practice is not about pretending you don't feel what you feel. It is a profound act of mental hygiene. It is a recognition that you have a choice. You can continue to shout the same painful words into the valley, or you can choose to introduce words that will create an echo of peace, freedom, and well-being. Tonight, you can be the source of a new echo. Plant the seeds for a peaceful tomorrow by introducing a gentle, kind, and loving intention into your mind right now. Let's pause here just for a moment. Feel the quality of this present moment. It is fresh, new, unburdened by the echoes of the past. Take a breath into this freshness. As you breathe out, let go of any old stories. You are here and you are free to begin anew. As we become more aware of our power to shape our inner world, we arrive at another profound layer of Zen wisdom. We begin to see that not only do our intentions create echoes, but our very perceptions create our reality. The fears that keep us awake at night often feel incredibly solid, like dangerous beasts lurking in the corners of the room. The anxiety can feel like a real and present threat to our survival. We believe our feelings are a direct report on an objective reality. But the teachings of Zen invite us to look closer, to see that our experience of the world is not the world itself, but a picture of the world, painted with the brush of our own mind. And if we are the painter, then we hold more power than we realize. There is a tale of a remote village that was terrorized by the legend of a fearsome tiger that lived in the nearby mountains. No one had ever seen the tiger, but everyone was certain it was there. This fear was fueled by a painting that hung in the village temple. It had been painted centuries ago by a Zen master who was famous for his lifelike art. The painting depicted a magnificent, powerful tiger emerging from a bamboo forest. Its eyes seemed to be alive, and its muscles looked ready to pounce. It was so realistic that it instilled a deep, primal fear in all who looked at it. A man in the village, named Koji, was particularly afflicted by this fear. He had the painting in his mind day and night. When he tried to sleep, he would hear the rustling of the bamboo in the wind outside his house and be certain it was the tiger. He could almost smell its scent. He was paralyzed with fear, unable to find a moment's peace. Finally, in desperation, he went to the temple to speak with the resident Zen master. "Master," he said, his voice trembling, "I cannot live like this. The tiger in the painting haunts me. I know it is real. I can feel its presence. I am afraid it will leap from the scroll and devour me and my family." The master listened with deep compassion. He did not tell Koji that his fear was foolish or that the tiger was just ink on paper. He understood that for Koji, the tiger was absolutely real. Instead, the master went to a cabinet and took out a very fine paintbrush and a small pot of ink. He handed them to Koji. "You are right to be afraid," the master said calmly. "The tiger is very powerful, but you have forgotten one very important thing. You have forgotten who holds the brush." He gestured to the painting. "The mind that painted the tiger is the same mind that is now terrified of it. The power that created the threat also has the power to create safety. Go home. Tonight, when you feel the tiger's presence and your fear is at its greatest, I want you to take this brush, dip it in the ink, and paint a strong cage around the tiger." Koji was bewildered, but he was desperate enough to try anything. He went home and waited in terror. As night fell, his fear grew. He heard a low growl that seemed to come from the scroll itself. His heart pounded, but then he remembered the master's words. Trembling, he lit a candle, took the brush, and approached the painting. He looked into the fierce eyes of the tiger, and with a surge of courage, he painted the first black bar of the cage. Then another, and another. As he painted the final bar, completing the cage, a profound silence fell over the room. The menacing presence was gone. The tiger was still there, still magnificent, but it was no longer a threat. It was contained. A wave of immense relief washed over Koji. He realized the master's lesson. The fear was a creation of the mind, and the mind also possessed the tools for its own liberation. This story illuminates one of the deepest teachings of Buddhism, that our experience of reality is shaped by our mind. This is not to say that the external world doesn't exist. It is to say that our suffering or peace does not arise from the world itself, but from the interpretation, the story, the painting that our mind creates about it. The tiger of our anxiety, our fear of failure, our worry about the future is a painting. It may be a very convincing painting, one that triggers a real physical stress response in our bodies. But it is a product of thought. When we are lost in the fear, we are like Koji, believing the tiger is an objective, separate threat. The practice is to remember that we are also the painter. We have the brush of awareness. We have the ink of wisdom. We can learn to stop being a passive victim of our own mental creations and become an active participant in how we frame our experience. We can paint a cage. The cage is not about suppression or denial. It is about context and wisdom. It is about drawing a line between a feeling and the ultimate truth, creating a space where the feeling can exist without terrorizing us. To practice painting a cage around your own tigers of fear, you can use a 3-step process when a strong worry or anxiety arises. The first step is to acknowledge the tiger. Do not try to fight the feeling. or pretend it isn't there. Turn toward it with mindfulness and name it. Ah, this is fear. This is the feeling of anxiety in my body. It feels very real and very powerful right now. Acknowledging it takes away the extra layer of resistance that creates so much tension. The second step is to remember the painter. Gently remind yourself that this powerful feeling is being generated by a thought, a story, a painting of the mind. You can say to yourself, "My mind is painting a picture of the future right now," or "This is a thought story, not a present moment reality." This simple reminder creates a crucial space of separation. You are not the tiger. You are the one who is aware of the tiger. The third step is to paint the cage. This means consciously applying a frame of wisdom around the fear. The cage can be made of many things. It might be the cage of impermanence, reminding yourself, this feeling is intense, but it is not permanent. It will pass. It might be the cage of self-compassion. It is okay that I feel this fear. I can be kind to myself right now. Or it might be the cage of perspective, asking yourself, what is actually true in this present moment, right here, right now, outside of this story? By consciously applying these frames of wisdom, you are not trying to destroy the tiger. You are placing it in a context where it is no longer the ruler of your entire inner kingdom. You are containing it with your wisdom, which allows you to find a place of safety and peace, even while the tiger is still visible. As we learn that we are the source of the echo and the painter of the tiger, we might still be left with a feeling of deep loneliness. The night can feel vast and empty, and we can feel like a small, isolated self, adrift in the darkness with our fears. The final wisdom we will explore in this part of our journey is the ultimate antidote to this feeling of separation. It is the beautiful and profound vision of interconnectedness, the realization that the sense of being a separate, isolated self is the greatest illusion of all. In the ancient scriptures, there is a magnificent and poetic description of the nature of the universe known as Indra's jewel net. Imagine a vast, cosmic net that stretches out to infinity in all directions. It is a web of shimmering threads, and at every single point where the threads cross, there is a perfect, multifaceted jewel. Each jewel is brilliant and clear, reflecting the light of all the others. The miraculous nature of this net is that if you were to look closely into the polished surface of any one jewel, you would see the reflections of every other jewel in the entire infinite net. And not only that, but within each of those tiny reflections, you would see the reflections of all the other jewels again, and so on, forever. Each individual jewel contains the totality of the net, and the totality of the net is present within each individual jewel. There is no part that is separate from the whole. Each exists only in relationship to all the others. This jewel net of Indra is one of the most powerful metaphors for the reality of our existence. Each of us, each being, each object, each thought, each moment is one of those jewels. We may appear to be separate, distinct individuals, just as the jewels have their own location in the net. But this sense of separation is a surface-level illusion. In truth, We are all inextricably interconnected. We are made of and sustained by the entire universe. Your in-breath is only possible because of the oxygen produced by countless trees and plankton. The water that makes up your body was once a cloud, a river, an ocean. The thoughts you think and the language you use to form them are inherited from generations of ancestors, philosophers, poets, and everyday people. The food that nourishes you contains the energy of the sun and the minerals of the earth. When we look deeply, we can find nothing in ourselves that is truly separate from everything else. The feeling of being a lonely, isolated ego is a fiction of the mind, a trick of perception. The reality is that we are held in a vast, intricate web of life. We are never alone. This understanding is the ultimate foundation for compassion. When we realize that the other jewels are reflections of ourselves, and we are reflections of them, it becomes impossible to wish harm upon another without harming ourselves. Their joy is reflected in us, and our peace is reflected in them. This vision dissolves the cold grip of existential loneliness and replaces it with a warm, comforting sense of belonging to a magnificent, shimmering whole. To feel the truth of this interconnectedness in your own being, you can practice a simple meditation of deep looking. As you lie here, bring your awareness to your own body, resting in this bed. First, contemplate your breath. Feel the air entering your nostrils. Know that this air is not your air. It is the shared atmosphere of the entire planet. The very molecules you are breathing in may have been part of a tree in a distant rainforest, or the breath of someone you love. With every breath, you are in a silent, intimate communion with all of life. Now, bring your awareness to the feeling of your body. Contemplate that this body is not a solid, separate thing. It is made entirely of non-body elements. It is the food you have eaten, the water you have drunk, the sunlight, the earth. It is a temporary, miraculous gathering of the elements of the universe. Your parents and all your ancestors are present in the genetic code that shapes you. See your body not as an isolated fortress, but as a meeting point for the entire cosmos. Now, let your mind gently rest on the image of someone you care for. Feel your connection to them. See that the love you feel is a thread that connects your jewel to theirs, a thread that is real even across distance. Then expand this vision. Imagine all the other people sleeping in your town, in your country, all around the world. Each one a jewel, breathing the same air, made of the same earth, dreaming their own dreams. Visualize yourself as one shining jewel in this vast, infinite, beautiful net of being. You are held. You are supported by all the other threads. Your light is a reflection of all the other lights, and their light is a reflection of yours. Rest in this feeling of belonging. You are not a lonely fragment. You are a vital, beautiful, and inseparable part of the whole miraculous web of existence. Having found our way back to the simple, undeniable reality of the present moment, we can take a final, liberating step. We can begin to gently loosen the grip on the heaviest burden we carry of all, the story of me. All night long, our minds can be preoccupied with this character we call me. We worry about its safety, we defend its reputation, we regret its past actions, and we fret about its future. This ongoing project of constructing, polishing, and protecting our sense of self is a full-time job, and it is utterly exhausting. The wisdom of Zen offers us the ultimate rest, the permission to resign from this job, at least for the night, by seeing that the self we work so hard to maintain is not as solid or as real as it appears. There is a story of a great actor who was famous throughout the land for his masterful portrayal of a king. He had played the role in a famous play for so many years, receiving so much applause and adoration for it, that a strange thing began to happen. He slowly forgot that he was an actor playing a role. He began to believe that he actually was the king. He started wearing his heavy velvet robes and golden crown even when he was not on stage. He spoke to his family and friends in a regal, commanding tone. He was constantly worried about the state of his kingdom, which was, in reality, just a painted stage set. His life became a misery. The weight of the crown gave him headaches. The heavy robes were hot and cumbersome. The constant need to be dignified and royal was a terrible strain. He was no longer a free man. He was a prisoner of his own identity. One afternoon, while walking through a village in his full costume, he saw a young child staring at him with wide, curious eyes. The child, having no concept of a theatre or a king, ran up to him, tugged on his velvet sleeve, and asked a simple, honest question. "Mister, why are you wearing such funny clothes? And why do you look so sad?" In that moment, the child's innocent question pierced through the actor's delusion like a ray of light. He looked down at his ridiculous, heavy costume. He felt the weight of the fake crown on his head, and he started to laugh. It was a laugh of profound relief. He was not the king. He was just an actor. He had a name, a home, a family. The kingdom's problems were not his to solve. The need to be royal was not his to uphold. The realization did not diminish him. It liberated him. That evening, for the first time in years, he went home, carefully took off the crown and robes, and enjoyed a simple meal with his family, feeling a lightness and a freedom he had forgotten was possible. This story is a powerful parable for the Buddhist teaching of anatta, or not self. Like the actor, we have all become deeply identified with the roles we play in our lives. The role of the parent, the professional, the child, the friend. We also identify with more subtle roles, the anxious person, the successful person, the one who is not good enough, the one who always has to have it all together. We mistake these roles, these costumes, for who we truly are. This constructed identity, this story of me, is what Buddhists call the ego, and maintaining it is a heavy burden. We are constantly worried about how our character is perceived. We are threatened when our story is challenged. At night, this can manifest as an endless review of our performance, a deep anxiety about the future of our character. The teaching of not self is like the child's innocent question. It invites us to look honestly at our own experience and ask, who am I really beneath this costume? When we look closely, we find that what we thought was a solid, unchanging self is actually a collection of constantly changing processes: body, feelings, thoughts, memories. There is no permanent king in the castle. This realization is the ultimate liberation. If you are not your story, then you are not permanently defined by your past mistakes. If you are not your anxiety, then you are not condemned to a lifetime of worry. These are just costumes, roles you have been playing, and just for tonight, you can take them off. You can let go of the exhausting project of being you and simply rest as the quiet, open awareness that is here when all the roles are set aside. To practice this profound act of unburdening, you can gently investigate the story of you as you lie here. Begin by noticing some of the identities you hold. You might say to yourself, "Tonight I am wearing the costume of a person who is worried about work." Or, "I am wearing the costume of a person who is feeling unwell." See these not as ultimate truths, but as temporary roles. Acknowledge them with a gentle kindness. Then, in your mind's eye, you can perform a simple, liberating ritual. Imagine yourself gently and lovingly taking off that costume. You can visualize unbuttoning the heavy coat of the warrior and letting it fall to the floor. You can imagine lifting off the tight helmet of the planner and setting it aside. You can let go of the need to be a certain way, to have certain problems, or to live up to a certain image just for tonight. As you set each costume aside, ask yourself, what is left? What remains when you are not playing a role? There is no need for a complicated answer. Simply rest in the feeling that remains. It may be a sense of simple presence, a feeling of quiet, a sense of spaciousness. That quiet, aware presence is closer to your true nature than any story you could ever tell about yourself. Just for this period of rest, you do not need to be anyone. You do not need to solve, manage, or defend the story of your life. You can let it all go. You are the actor, not the king. The play can wait until morning. For now, in the quiet darkness, you are free to simply be. As we let go of the burden of the self, we arrive at the final doorway to deep and lasting peace. It is the practice that underpins all the others. It is the final, graceful act of letting go. It is the wisdom of surrender. In a world that prizes control, effort, and determination, the idea of surrender can sound like weakness or defeat. But in the context of Zen and the art of rest, surrender is an act of profound strength, wisdom, and trust. It is the recognition that some of life's greatest gifts, like sleep, love, and peace, cannot be seized through effort. They can only be received when we have the courage to open our hands and let go of our tight grip of control. Imagine a person who has never been in the water before, standing at the edge of a calm, clear lake. They want to learn how to float, how to be held by the water. Their teacher is with them. As they tentatively step into the lake, Their body is filled with fear. Every muscle is tense. Their instinct is to struggle, to fight. They try to do the floating. They kick their legs frantically. They paddle their arms. They hold their head up with all the strength in their neck. And the result, of course, is that they immediately begin to sink. The more they struggle, the more they fight the water, the faster they go under. Exhausted and sputtering, they look to their teacher for help. The teacher does not offer a complicated technique. The teacher simply says, "Stop trying. The struggle is what is sinking you. The water knows how to hold you. You have to trust it. Lie back, take a breath, and let go. Let the water do the work." This is terrifying advice. It goes against every survival instinct. But finally, exhausted from the struggle and having no other options, the person decides to try. They take a gentle breath, lie back, and for one terrifying second, they let go of all effort. They release the tension in their neck, their shoulders, their limbs, and then a miracle happens. The water holds them. They are floating. They discover that floating is not something you do at all. It is the natural result of not doing. It is a state of perfect balance between the body and the water, and it is only possible through complete surrender and trust. Our relationship with sleep is exactly like our relationship with the water. The state of anxiety, of worry, of a racing mind is the state of thrashing and struggling. It is a state of deep tension and resistance. We are trying to force ourselves to sleep. We are trying to hold our own heads up, convinced that if we let go, we will drown in the darkness. All the practices we have explored tonight, from observing our thoughts to opening our hearts, are ways of learning to stop the struggle. They are ways of relaxing our frantic grip so that we can discover that we are held. Sleep, like the water, is a natural element. It has its own wisdom. It knows how to hold us, how to heal us, how to restore us. Our only job is to get out of our own way, to stop fighting, and to allow ourselves to be held. This is the ultimate act of trust. It is a deep trust in the wisdom of your own body, which knows its own need for rest and knows how to find it. It is a trust in the rhythm of life, the natural cycle of day and night, of activity and rest. It is a letting go of the arrogant belief of the ego that it must be in control of everything, even the process of its own dissolution into sleep. Surrender is not giving up. It is giving over. It is giving ourselves over to a power and a wisdom that is greater than our own anxious, thinking mind. To practice this final act of surrender, let us bring our journey to its natural conclusion. There are no more complex instructions. There are no more techniques to master. The time for doing is over. The time for being has arrived. As you lie here, feel the full weight of your body. Feel how it is already held, already supported by the surface beneath you. The bed is like the water. It is holding you completely. You do not need to hold yourself. Begin by consciously giving permission for your body to let go. With your next exhalation, release the weight of your head and neck into the pillow. Let them be heavy. With your next exhalation, release the weight of your shoulders and your arms. let them be completely limp. Breathe out and release the weight of your torso, your back, your hips. Feel yourself sinking, settling, releasing. And with a final, long exhalation, let go of the weight of your legs, your feet, your whole body heavy, soft, and completely at rest. Now, let go of control of your breath. You do not need to manage it. Your body knows how to breathe. Simply allow the breath to breathe itself. And finally, let go of your mind. Let go of being the observer. Let go of labeling your thoughts. Let go of all techniques, all effort. Let go of the need to get it right. Trust that you have done enough. You have planted the seeds. Now, you must let the garden grow on its own. Simply lie back in the vast, quiet darkness and trust. Trust in the night. Trust in the silence. Trust in your own capacity for deep, healing rest. You are the swimmer, and you have finally stopped struggling. Now, just allow the great, gentle lake of the night to hold you, to rock you, and to carry you effortlessly into the peaceful depths of sleep. Our journey through these gentle teachings now comes to a quiet close. We have walked together from the restless shores of the thinking mind to the still, deep waters of the heart. We have seen that our struggle is not with the world, but with our own resistance to its ever-changing flow. We have discovered that beneath the passing clouds of our thoughts and worries, the vast open sky of our own awareness is always peaceful and untouched. We have learned to be a wise gardener for our minds, to find beauty in our own imperfections, and to unburden ourselves from the heavy costume of a fixed identity. And we have arrived here, at the gateless gate of the present moment, realizing that the peace we seek is not in a distant land, but in the simple, profound act of surrender. Remember that this path is not about adding something new to yourself, but about letting go of what obscures the peace that is already here. You are not building a fortress of calm. You are simply clearing away the debris of old habits and mistaken beliefs so that your own natural, quiet wellspring can flow freely. Think of yourself as a weary traveler who's been on a long and difficult journey, carrying a heavy pack upon your back. You have finally arrived home. This bed, this room, this present moment, this is your home. The journey is over for today. You can now gently set down your heavy pack, the pack filled with all your worries, your plans, your regrets, and your responsibilities. You can set it by the door. It will be there in the morning if you need it. But for tonight, you are free of its weight. There is no final test to pass, no examination of how well you have listened or how much you have understood. The only thing left to do is to rest in the sanctuary you have arrived at. So let this be a moment of profound trust. Trust in the seeds you have planted in the garden of your mind tonight. Trust that even a single moment of mindfulness, a single thought of kindness, a single breath of surrender has already begun its gentle work. And most of all, trust in the deep, innate wisdom of your own body. Your body knows how to heal. It knows how to rest. It knows how to sleep. All it asks is for a mind that is willing to be quiet enough, to feel safe enough, to let go. All the practices we have shared have been for this one purpose: to create a state of inner safety, a gentle truce in the civil war of the mind, so that your body can finally feel permission to enter the deep, restorative peace it so deeply needs and deserves. The work is complete. All that is left is to receive the gift of rest. Now, let us conclude our journey with some timeless Zen stories. This is the tale of the salt and the lake. In a quiet monastery nestled among rolling hills, there lived an aging master, renowned for his patience and wisdom. Among his students was a young apprentice whose heart had become heavy with complaints about life's difficulties. Each morning, the apprentice would arrive with fresh grievances. "Master, why is life so hard? Yesterday, my meditation was disturbed by noise. Today, my back aches from the hard floor. When will this suffering end?" His voice carried the weight of someone who had catalogued every small discomfort until they had grown into an overwhelming burden. The master listened with infinite patience, but as days turned to weeks, he recognized that words alone would not shift his student's perspective. One crisp morning, as golden sunlight streamed through their simple dwelling, the master made an unusual request. "My dear student," he said gently, "I need you to go to the kitchen and bring me some salt. Just a handful will suffice." The apprentice, puzzled by this simple task, nonetheless obeyed. He returned with cupped palms containing coarse white crystals. "Now," the master instructed, producing a small glass of water, "place all of that salt into this glass and drink it." The young man hesitated. "Master, that seems like far too much salt for such a small amount of water." "Trust the process," the master replied. "Drink." The apprentice poured the salt into the glass, watching the crystals dissolve into a cloudy, unappetizing mixture. He lifted it to his lips and took a large gulp, immediately grimacing as the intensely bitter taste filled his mouth. "How does it taste?" the master asked. "Bitter," the apprentice spat. "Terribly, overwhelmingly bitter. I can barely stand it." The master chuckled softly. "Excellent. Now bring that same amount of salt and come with me." Together, they walked in contemplative silence until they reached the shores of a pristine mountain lake. The water stretched before them like a mirror, reflecting the sky so perfectly that it was difficult to tell where earth ended and heaven began. "Now," the master said, "place this handful of salt into the lake." The apprentice waded into the shallow water and opened his hands, watching as the salt crystals scattered across the lake's surface, quickly dissolving without leaving any visible trace. "Drink from the lake," the master instructed. The young man cupped the lake water in his hands and brought it to his lips. The water was clean, refreshing, with the pure taste of mountain streams. "How does it taste?" the master asked. "Much fresher," the apprentice replied, genuinely surprised. "Clean and pure." "Do you taste the salt?" the master inquired gently. The student paused, paying careful attention. "No," he said slowly. "I don't taste any salt at all." The master sat beside his student on a smooth stone at the water's edge. His weathered hands reached out to clasp the young man's hands in profound tenderness. "My dear student," the master said, "the pain of life is pure salt. No more, no less. The amount of pain in existence remains constant, but the amount of bitterness we experience depends entirely on the container we put that pain into." The apprentice listened with new understanding. When you are in pain, the master continued, the only thing you can truly control is your response. You can choose to be a small glass where every grain of salt overwhelms your senses. Or you can choose to enlarge your sense of things, to become like this vast lake where the same salt dissolves harmlessly into something much greater. The master paused. Stop being a glass, my friend. Become a lake. The Buddha once said, pain is certain, suffering is optional. This fundamental teaching reveals the heart of our relationship with difficulty. We cannot eliminate the challenges woven into human existence, but we have tremendous power over how that pain affects us. What emerges from this story is understanding about consciousness itself. Our awareness is not fixed in size. It can contract into the narrow confines of a glass, where every difficulty looms enormous. Or it can expand into the spaciousness of a lake, where the same difficulties become manageable. Why do we often choose to be the glass rather than the lake? First is our tendency toward pain myopia, becoming so focused on discomfort that it fills our entire awareness. Second is our habit of story proliferation, taking a single, painful event and creating elaborate narratives about how unfair life is. Third is the comparing mind, measuring our pain against an imaginary standard of how life should be. The lake perspective doesn't minimize genuine pain or suggest passivity. Rather, it offers a skillful way of relating to inevitable challenges that doesn't compound them with unnecessary suffering. From lake consciousness, we can respond to problems more creatively because we're not overwhelmed. Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh taught, thanks to impermanence, everything is possible. From the lake perspective, we remember that everything arises and passes away within the vast space of awareness. Today's crisis becomes tomorrow's memory. We become a lake through practices that naturally expand awareness. Meditation teaches us to rest in spacious presence. Gratitude helps us notice experiences beyond immediate difficulties. Service reminds us that our pain is part of shared human experience. Tonight, as you reflect on current challenges, can you sense the difference between experiencing them from glass consciousness versus lake consciousness? What would it feel like to allow your awareness to expand beyond the immediate intensity of difficulties to include the vast context of this moment? As the Buddha taught, if you want to know your mind, sit down and observe it. If your mind is clear, happiness will come. The clarity he speaks of is not the absence of salt, but the spaciousness to hold it skillfully. In becoming lakes rather than glasses, we discover that pain can become a gateway to deeper compassion and freedom. Let us now turn to a tale about the courage to trust life's current. This is the story of the Crystal River. In the depths of a great crystal river, where water flowed clear as mountain air, there lived an entire village of small creatures. The river's current moved above them like a gentle breath, carrying the wisdom of countless springs and distant seas. Young and old, rich and poor, all made their home along the sandy bottom, each creature grasping tightly to stones, branches, and roots. For generations, clinging had been their way of survival. Every creature learned from birth to wrap their appendages around river rocks and fallen wood. "Hold on," the elders would say. "The current is dangerous. It will sweep you away to places unknown. Safety lies in staying exactly where you are." But one small creature grew weary of this endless grasping. Day after day, he watched the current flow overhead, seeing how it moved with such purpose and grace. While his neighbors complained about the effort required to maintain their grip, he found himself wondering what it might feel like to trust that flowing water. "I am tired of clinging," he announced one morning. "Though I cannot see where it leads, I trust that the current knows its destination. I shall let go and allow it to carry me where it will, for I fear that if I continue clinging, I shall die of boredom before I ever truly live." The other creatures gasped in horror. "Fool!" they cried. "Let go, and that current will tumble you mercilessly across the rocks below. You will be battered and broken, dying far more quickly than any boredom could kill you." But the small creature had made his decision. Taking one last look at his neighbors, he released his grip on the familiar stone. Immediately, the current seized him, and just as the others had predicted, he was tumbled and tossed across the rocky bottom. His small body struck stone after stone, each impact bringing pain he had never experienced while safely clinging. Yet something remarkable began to happen. As the creature continued to surrender to the current's power, refusing to grab for new anchors despite his pain, the water gradually lifted him higher from the dangerous bottom. The tumbling ceased. The rocks could no longer reach him. Now he flowed with the current itself, no longer fighting its direction, but becoming one with its movement. As he traveled downstream, creatures in distant parts witnessed something they had never seen. Here was one of their own kind, yet he appeared to be flying through the water, moving with the elegant power of the current itself. "See a miracle!" they called out. "A creature like ourselves, yet he soars. Surely he is the Messiah, come to save us all." The flowing creature heard their cries and felt compassion for their misunderstanding. "I am no more Messiah than any of you," he called back. "The river delights in lifting us all free, if only we dare to let go. Our true work is not clinging to the bottom, but embracing this voyage, this grand adventure of trust and flow." But the creatures only cried louder, "Savior, Savior!" Even as they spoke, they tightened their grips on rocks and roots. They watched until he disappeared around a bend, then began weaving legends about the miraculous Savior who had briefly graced their village. Buddha's wisdom reminds us, you only lose what you cling to. This ancient teaching illuminates the profound paradox at the heart of human experience. We spend our lives grasping for security and control, believing that our safety depends on holding tight to familiar circumstances. Yet in this very grasping, we create the suffering we seek to avoid. Why do we cling so desperately when the current offers to carry us toward unknown adventures? Zen Buddhism reveals that from early childhood, we learn the known is safe and the unknown dangerous. This conditioning becomes a spiritual obstacle when it prevents growth beyond familiar limitations. We also suffer from the illusion of control, believing that by grasping circumstances, relationships, and identities, we can stop the natural flow of change. This creates enormous tension because it puts us in opposition to reality itself. Life is constant movement, and when we resist this truth, we exhaust ourselves fighting currents far more powerful than our individual will. Consider the areas of your life where you find yourself clinging. Perhaps it's a relationship that has outgrown its original form, a career that no longer brings joy, or an image of yourself that now constrains your growth. The current of change will flow whether we resist it or not. Our choice is whether to exhaust ourselves in futile opposition or discover the grace available in conscious surrender. The Buddha said, "Nothing is permanent except change. Water doesn't fight the mountainside. It finds the natural pathway down. When we learn to move with life's current rather than against it, we discover effortless effectiveness that rigid resistance can never achieve." Tonight, as you rest in this moment's stillness, what might you be ready to release? Perhaps it's a worry about tomorrow's challenges, a resentment from yesterday's disappointments, or a way of defining yourself that has grown too small. Can you feel into the current of this moment's aliveness and trust its direction? As the Buddha taught, let go of what has passed. Let go of what may come. Let go of what is happening now. Relax right now and rest. In this trust, we discover that the current we feared would destroy us is actually the very force that can carry us home to our true nature. Let us now turn to a story about the most profound spiritual truth hiding in the most obvious place. This is the dialogue between Joshu and Nansen about the ordinary mind. In a quiet mountain monastery where morning mist drifted between ancient pine trees and the sound of temple bells echoed across distant valleys, two masters engaged in a conversation that would illuminate the very heart of Zen understanding. Joshu, despite his own considerable wisdom and years of practice, approached his teacher Nansen with the earnestness of a sincere student seeking to understand the deepest mysteries of existence. The two men sat facing each other in the temple's meditation hall, where countless seekers before them had wrestled with the same fundamental questions about the nature of awakening. Joshu's inquiry came from a place of genuine perplexity. After years of intensive practice, meditation and study, he still felt uncertain about the very foundation of the spiritual path. "Master," Joshu began with characteristic directness, "what exactly is the way? With all our practices and teachings, what are we ultimately seeking?" Nansen's response was immediate and surprisingly simple. "Ordinary mind is the way," he replied, as if stating the most obvious fact in the world. This answer clearly puzzled Joshu, who had expected something more esoteric, more complex, more removed from everyday experience. "If ordinary mind is the way," he pressed further, "then should we direct ourselves toward cultivating it? Should we make it our spiritual goal?" Nansen shook his head gently. "If you direct yourself toward it, you immediately go away from it," he explained. "The very effort to attain ordinary mind makes it extraordinary, and therefore no longer ordinary." Now Joshu found himself in what seemed like an impossible logical bind. "But Master, if we don't try to cultivate or attain anything, how can we ever know that this ordinary mind is actually the way? How can we recognize it without some form of practice or effort?" Nansen's final response cut through all philosophical complexity with razor-sharp clarity. The way does not belong to knowing or not knowing. Knowing turns the way into a concept, an object of understanding, which is illusion. Not knowing turns it into blankness, which misses its vibrant presence. If you truly realize the way without doubt, it becomes like the great void, so vast and boundless that it contains everything. How then could there be any distinction between right and wrong, sacred and mundane, ordinary and extraordinary? At these words, something shifted fundamentally in Joshu's understanding. The seeking mind that had been grasping for answers suddenly relaxed, and he experienced a moment of complete clarity, not the clarity of understanding something new, but the clarity of recognizing what had been present all along. Buddha's wisdom reminds us, there is nothing to seek and nothing to find. Everything is already here. The heart of this lesson lies in recognizing that what we seek through spiritual practice is not some special state of consciousness, but rather the ordinary awareness that is reading these words right now. Why do we struggle to accept that ordinary mind is the way? Zen Buddhism points to our deep conditioning that spiritual truth must be extraordinary, mystical, or dramatically different from our everyday experience. We imagine enlightenment as a permanent state of bliss, cosmic consciousness, or supernatural abilities, when in reality, it is simply the natural state of awareness without the overlay of seeking and striving. Our spiritual seeking often becomes its own obstacle. Like a person frantically searching for glasses while wearing them, we exhaust ourselves looking for something we already possess. The very effort to attain a special spiritual state creates the sense of separation between seeker and sought, between the ordinary self and some idealized, awakened self. Consider how your own mind works in this very moment. Thoughts arise and pass away. Sensations appear in your body. Sounds reach your ears. Emotions flow through your awareness. This natural functioning of consciousness, without any special effort or concentration, is what Nansen calls ordinary mind. It is already enlightened, not because it achieves some particular state, but because it is the very space in which all states appear and dissolve. Zen master Huang Po taught, "Your everyday mind, that is the way, just like now, without seeking anything, without grasping after the fruits of Zen, just this mind that thinks and feels and perceives. This is Buddha." This ordinariness is precisely what makes it so difficult to recognize. We keep looking past it for something more impressive. The great void that Nansen mentions is not empty space, but rather the spacious awareness in which all experiences arise. Like the sky that remains unchanged whether filled with clouds or clear, this awareness remains constant through all the changing contents of experience. Joy and sorrow, clarity and confusion, peace and agitation, all appear and disappear within this unchanging background of ordinary awareness. This understanding revolutionizes our approach to spiritual practice. Instead of trying to achieve some special state, we learn to recognize the awareness that is already present. Instead of seeking to transcend ordinary experience, we discover the extraordinary nature of ordinariness itself. The sound of rain becomes as sacred as temple bells. Washing dishes becomes as profound as formal meditation. In Japanese aesthetics, there is a concept called wabi-sabi, finding beauty in imperfection and impermanence. This appreciation for the ordinary and imperfect reflects the same understanding that Nansen points toward. The way is not found in perfected states, but in the natural flow of life exactly as it is. Tonight, as you experience the simple fact of being aware of these words, aware of your breathing, aware of the sounds around you, can you recognize this ordinary awareness as what you have been seeking all along? Can you relax the effort to become something other than what you already are? As the Buddha taught, peace comes from within. Do not seek it without. The way is not a destination to reach, but the very ground you are already standing on. In accepting your ordinary mind as Buddha mind, you discover that the spiritual journey was never about going somewhere else, but about recognizing where you have always been. Let us keep going on our journey. The following story reveals the difference between helping and holding on. This is the lesson of the two monks and the woman at the river. Two monks were traveling together along a mountain path, making their way to a distant monastery where they planned to continue their studies. Both were dedicated practitioners who had taken strict vows as part of their spiritual training, including a vow to avoid all physical contact with women. This wasn't born from disrespect, but from their understanding that such discipline helped maintain focus on their spiritual development. As they approached a swollen river where the usual bridge had been damaged by recent storms, they encountered a young woman standing uncertainly at the water's edge. The current was strong and treacherous, filled with debris from the mountain runoff, and she was clearly afraid to attempt crossing alone. "Please, honored monks," she called to them, "could one of you help me cross this dangerous water? I'm not strong enough to make it safely on my own." One of the monks immediately tensed, his mind racing through their monastic rules and the potential complications of this situation. Physical contact with women was explicitly forbidden, and he began formulating explanations for why they couldn't help, perhaps suggestions for alternative solutions that wouldn't require breaking their vows. The other monk, however, took one look at the woman's predicament and the genuine danger she faced, and made a different choice. Without hesitation or lengthy deliberation, he walked to her side and gently lifted her onto his shoulders. He carried her carefully across the treacherous current, ensuring her safety with each step, and set her down gently on the far bank. "Thank you so much," she said gratefully, bowing to both monks before continuing on her way. The two monks resumed their journey, but the atmosphere between them had changed dramatically. The first monk walked in increasingly agitated silence, his mind churning with thoughts about what he had witnessed. As the hours passed, his internal tension grew until finally he could no longer contain his distress. "Brother," he burst out, unable to hold his silence any longer, "I cannot understand your behavior back at the river. Our spiritual training explicitly teaches us to avoid any physical contact with women. Yet you picked that woman up onto your shoulders and carried her across the water. How could you so blatantly violate our sacred vows?" His companion looked at him with gentle surprise and responded with perfect simplicity. "Brother, I set her down on the other side of the river hours ago, but you are still carrying her." Buddha's wisdom teaches us, holding on to anger is like grasping a hot coal with the intent of throwing it at someone else. You are the one who gets burned. This tale unveils the profound difference between compassionate action and mental attachment, between responding to present needs and carrying past events. Why do we often carry situations long after they've ended, replaying scenarios and nursing grievances that only exist in our own minds? Zen Buddhism reveals that much of our suffering comes not from what happens to us, but from our inability to release experiences once they've passed. The first monk's agitation demonstrates how rigid adherence to rules can sometimes conflict with the compassionate spirit that inspired those rules originally. His fellow monk saw a person in danger and responded with immediate kindness, then completely released the incident. But the first monk carried the event for hours, letting it grow heavier with each step. Consider your own tendency to replay past conversations, nurse old grievances, or mentally rehearse scenarios that have already ended. How much of your mental energy goes toward carrying situations that exist now only in memory? The woman crossed the river in minutes, but the monk carried her for hours through his own thoughts. This teaching applies to far more than dramatic violations of rules. We carry harsh words someone spoke years ago, mistakes we made decades past, embarrassing moments that no one else even remembers. Meanwhile, the present moment, rich with possibility and actual experience, goes unnoticed because we're too busy carrying ghosts from the past. In Zen practice, we learn to distinguish between appropriate action and unnecessary attachment. The second monk helped when help was needed, then moved on completely. He didn't dwell on whether he'd made the right choice, worry about others' opinions, or replay the incident endlessly in his mind. Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh taught, thanks to impermanence, everything is possible. The river crossing was impermanent. It began, served its purpose, and ended. Only the first monk's attachment to the event gave it ongoing existence in the form of mental suffering. The Buddha said, "Let go of what has passed. Let go of what may come. Let go of what is happening now. Don't try to figure anything out. Don't try to make anything happen. Relax, right now, and rest." This teaching points directly to the freedom available when we stop carrying experiences beyond their natural lifespan. Look deeply at what you might be carrying unnecessarily. Old resentments, past failures, conversations that upset you, decisions you regret. All of these exist now only because you continue to pick them up and carry them. What would it feel like to set them down? The irony is profound. The monk who actually broke the rule experienced no suffering from it, while the monk who maintained perfect rule observance created hours of agitation for himself. This reveals that suffering often comes not from our actions, but from our thoughts about our actions. Tonight, as you notice your mind returning to past events, old grievances, or situations that have already ended, can you remember the wise monk's example? Can you practice setting down whatever you've been carrying unnecessarily, discovering the lightness that comes from traveling through life without the burden of yesterday's experiences? As Buddha's wisdom reminds us, in the end, only three things matter: how well we have lived, how well we have loved, how well we have learned to let go. True spiritual practice isn't about perfect rule following, but about responding appropriately to what's actually present, then releasing it completely to make space for whatever comes next. Our next story reveals a profound lesson about the nature of anger and our projections onto others. This is The Empty Boat. A young boatman known for his fiery temper was ferrying his small wooden craft across a wide, misty river in the early morning hours. He took great pride in his navigational skills and the care he brought to his work. But the slightest inconvenience or disruption could send him into a blazing rage. His reputation for explosive anger was well known among the other river workers, who often avoided him during his darker moods. On this particular morning, thick fog had settled over the water, reducing visibility to just a few feet in any direction. The boatman squinted through the grey mist, carefully steering his vessel across the familiar waters. Suddenly, through the swirling fog, he saw another boat moving directly toward him on a collision course. "Hey, turn aside!" he shouted into the mist, his voice echoing across the water. "You're going to hit me! Can't you see where you're going?" But the other boat continued steadily forward, showing no sign of changing direction. The boatman's anger began to build as he shouted again, his voice now filled with fury. He cursed the other pilot's carelessness and incompetence, his rage growing with each passing second. Despite his increasingly angry warnings, the other boat struck his own with a solid, jarring thud. Now boiling with indignation, the boatman was ready to leap into the other vessel and give its foolish pilot a piece of his mind. He prepared himself for a confrontation, ready to unleash all his pent-up frustration on the person who had so carelessly disrupted his morning journey. His fists were clenched, his face red with anger as he moved toward the other boat. But as he peered through the mist at the vessel that had struck him, he discovered something that stopped him completely. The boat was empty. There was no pilot at the tiller, no person to blame or confront. It was simply a drifting boat that had been carried into his path by the river's current. In that instant, his anger vanished completely. It was impossible to be furious at an empty boat. There was no target for his rage, no one to receive his harsh words. All the aggressive energy that had built up inside him suddenly had nowhere to go. He simply pushed the empty vessel away and continued his journey, his mind now as calm as the misty river around him. Buddha's wisdom reminds us, holding on to anger is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. The heart of this lesson lies in recognizing how much of our anger is directed at empty boats, projections of intention where none exists. This tale unveils a fundamental truth about the nature of human reactivity. Most of our emotional suffering comes not from what others actually do to us, but from the stories we create about their motivations, intentions, and character. We assume malice where there might be distraction, disrespect where there might be ignorance, and personal attack where there might be simple circumstance. Why do we so readily populate empty boats with imaginary pilots to blame? Our minds evolved to quickly assess threats and assign agency to potentially dangerous situations. This survival mechanism served our ancestors well when distinguishing between a rustling bush caused by wind versus a predator. But in modern social situations, this same tendency leads us to attribute deliberate, harmful intent to actions that may have no such motivation. Think about your daily interactions. When someone cuts you off in traffic, do you immediately assume they're inconsiderate and selfish? When a colleague doesn't return your greeting, do you decide they're being rude or dismissive? When a friend cancels plans last minute, do you interpret it as a sign they don't value your friendship? In each case, you may be creating a pilot for an empty boat. The driver who cut you off might be rushing to the hospital with a sick child. Your colleague might be preoccupied with devastating personal news. Your friend might be struggling with anxiety or depression. Most people's actions have far more to do with their internal experience than with any intention to harm you. Zen master Huang Po taught, "The foolish reject what they see, not what they think. The wise reject what they think, not what they see." When we react to our interpretations rather than to what actually happened, we're fighting empty boats. This doesn't mean becoming passive or failing to set appropriate boundaries. If someone's behavior affects you negatively, you can address it skillfully without creating elaborate stories about their motivations. You can say, "When you interrupted me, I felt unheard," rather than, "You're always so disrespectful and self-centered." The practice involves pausing when anger arises and asking, "Am I reacting to what actually happened, or to the story I'm telling myself about what happened? Am I angry at a person's actions, or at the pilot I've imagined in their empty boat?" In Zen meditation, we learn to observe our thoughts and emotions as passing phenomena rather than absolute truths. When anger arises, instead of immediately believing and acting on it, we can notice, "Anger is here. What story is my mind creating? What am I assuming about this person's intentions?" The Buddha said, You will not be punished for your anger. You will be punished by your anger. Each time we populate an empty boat with a malicious pilot, we create suffering for ourselves. Each time we remember that most boats are simply drifting with the current, we free ourselves from unnecessary reactivity. Tonight, as you reflect on recent moments of frustration or anger, can you identify which boats were truly piloted and which were empty? Can you feel the difference in your body between reacting to harmful intent versus responding to simple circumstance? As the Buddha taught, peace comes from within. Do not seek it without. When we stop fighting empty boats, we discover that peace was available all along. Now, let us rest here together in this final stillness. Find your most comfortable position and gently allow your eyes to close if they are not already. Take one last, slow, deep breath in, and as you breathe out, release a soft sigh, letting go of any remaining effort. Let your body be heavy, supported, and completely at ease. Bring your awareness, just for a moment, to the vast, quiet space of your mind. See it as a clear night sky. Thoughts may still drift by like faint clouds, but you are the sky, not the clouds. Rest as this spacious, open awareness. Now, feel into the center of your chest. Imagine a small, soft, warm ember glowing there. This is the warmth of your own kindness, your own good heart. Feel this warmth gently spreading through your body, a feeling of safety, of peace, of being at home with yourself. Finally, feel the weight of your entire body surrendering to gravity, held completely by the surface beneath you. You are safe. You are held. You are at peace. There is nothing more you need to do. There is nowhere else you need to be. Just this. Just here. This quiet darkness, this gentle breath, this profound stillness. May you carry this peace with you as you drift into sleep. May your rest be deep, healing, and dreamless. May you awaken in the morning feeling restored, and may you remember, even for a fleeting moment, the vast and quiet space that is your true home. May you walk through your days with a lighter step and a softer heart, knowing you are always held by a grace far greater than your worries. And may the peace you have cultivated within yourself be a gift to all those you meet. Thank you for walking this path with me. Rest well.
Tonight, we explore the theme of ordinary mind, a Zen teaching that points to something so simple it is easy to miss. We often think peace is something we have to chase. We think we need to change who we are to find it. But the ancient masters discovered that peace is right here, in the most common moments of our lives. Before we begin, feel free to share what time it is and where you're listening from. The teaching of ordinary mind suggests that you do not need to change a single thing to find what you are looking for. It suggests that this moment, exactly as it is, already contains everything we are seeking. Not because we make it special, but because we stop insisting it should be something other than what it is. As we move through these teachings tonight, you may find yourself settling naturally into the present moment. Not because you are trying to achieve anything, but because these ancient wisdoms remind us of what we already know. The stories will unfold gently, each one revealing a different side of this simple truth. We are not seeking anything extraordinary tonight. We are simply discovering the profound peace that lives in the most ordinary corners of our daily lives. Settle in and let's begin this journey together. There is a famous teaching in Zen that sounds almost too simple to contain wisdom. When hungry, eat. When tired, sleep. When it rains, open your umbrella. This is called ordinary mind. At first, these words might seem pointless. Of course we eat when hungry. What else would we do? But look more closely at how we actually live. When hungry, we often delay eating while finishing one more task. When tired, we push through with stimulants and willpower. When it rains, we curse the weather instead of simply staying dry. We have learned to override our natural responses, to complicate what is simple, to think about life instead of living it. We carry elaborate ideas about what we should do, how we should be, what proper spiritual practice looks like. These ideas pile up until we can no longer hear the quiet voice of natural response. Ordinary mind points to something beneath all this complication. A way of being that responds to life directly, without the interference of endless thinking. Not the thoughtlessness of animals, but the natural wisdom of a mind that knows what to do without making a problem of it. When we return to this natural way, life becomes simpler. Not because we stop thinking altogether, but because we stop letting our thinking prevent us from responding appropriately to what is actually happening. Let us explore a story that shows this truth. There once lived a scholar named Koro, who had devoted 20 years to studying Buddhist texts. He had read every sutra he could find. He practiced complex meditation techniques he had learned from various teachers. His days were filled with spiritual exercises designed to purify his mind and lead him toward enlightenment. Each morning, Koro would wake before dawn and spend an hour in breathing practices. He would count each breath, maintain specific postures, visualize colored lights moving through his body. Then he would sit in meditation for 2 hours, observing his thoughts according to a precise method he had learned from a famous master. After that, he would chant specific mantras exactly 108 times. His breakfast was eaten according to particular rules about mindfulness and gratitude. He would contemplate each grain of rice for several breaths before placing it in his mouth. Every activity in his day had a prescribed method, a correct form, a spiritual significance. Despite all this effort, Koro felt increasingly tired and anxious. He was never sure if he was doing the practices correctly. He worried that missing even one session might set back his progress. He lay awake at night thinking about whether he had been truly mindful during the day or merely going through the motions. The weight of his spiritual obligations pressed on him constantly. His wife would sometimes say, "You seem more troubled now than before you began all this practice." But Koro would tell her she did not understand the importance of spiritual discipline. The path to enlightenment required dedication and effort. Any discomfort was just part of purification. One autumn, Koro decided to visit a hermit who lived in a small hut deep in the mountains. He had heard that this hermit, an old man named Lin, possessed genuine wisdom. Perhaps Lin could tell him which practices to focus on, which texts held the most important teachings, how to accelerate his spiritual progress. The journey took 2 days. When Koro finally found the small hut, he saw Lin sitting outside on a rough wooden stool. The old man looked up and smiled. "Welcome, friend. You look exhausted." Koro was exhausted. The long walk, combined with his constant worry about maintaining his practice schedule on the road, had drained him. "I have come seeking guidance," he said, bowing respectfully. "I practice diligently, but I feel farther from peace than when I began." Lin nodded and stood slowly. "Come inside. You must be hungry." The hut was simple. A sleeping mat in one corner, a small fire pit, a few cooking vessels, no altar, no meditation cushions, no religious texts, no incense burner or prayer beads. Nothing that suggested a spiritual practitioner lived here. This surprised Koro. How could a wise hermit live without the tools of practice? Lin began preparing a simple meal. He washed rice in a wooden bowl, swirling his hand through the water to remove dust and chaff. He cut vegetables he had gathered from the forest. Mushrooms, wild greens, a few root vegetables. He moved without hurry, without ceremony, simply doing what needed to be done. There was no elaborate mindfulness, no dramatic presence, no careful attention to each movement as Koro had been taught. Just an old man making food because someone was hungry. As the rice cooked, Lin poured tea for both of them. The tea was plain, served in simple clay cups. "Tell me about your practice," he said. Koro described his elaborate schedule. The hours of meditation, the breathing techniques, the mantras, the mindful eating, the visualization practices, the prostrations, the study sessions. He explained how he contemplated the Four Noble Truths each evening, how he reflected on impermanence throughout the day, how he tried to maintain awareness of each action. As he spoke, he realized how complicated it all sounded, how exhausting even the description was. Lin listened quietly, sipping his tea. He showed no reaction, no judgment, just patient listening. When Koro finished, the old man was silent for a moment, looking into his cup. Then he asked, "When you are hungry, do you eat?" "Well, yes, but I must eat mindfully. I must contemplate the source of the food, the labor that went into its production, the impermanence of all things. I must maintain awareness of each bite, counting my chews, observing the sensation." Lin held up a hand gently. "When you are hungry, do you eat?" Koro felt confused. "I just explained how I eat, with full awareness and proper technique." "That is not what I asked. When you are hungry, do you eat? Or do you perform elaborate rituals around eating while hunger remains?" Something in Koro became defensive. Eating mindfully is important practice. Many teachers emphasize this. The sutras speak of right action and mindful consumption. Lin smiled, but there was a sadness in his eyes. The Buddha ate when he was hungry. He did not make eating into a complicated performance. He simply nourished his body so he could continue his work. He gestured to the rice, which was now ready. "Let us eat." Lin served the food in simple wooden bowls. He began eating without ceremony, without elaborate attention, just eating because he was hungry. Koro watched, uncertain. Should he not bless the food first? Count his breaths? Maintain special awareness? Eat, Lin said gently. The rice is getting cold. Koro took a bite. The rice was perfectly cooked, slightly sweet. The vegetables were tender. He found himself actually tasting the food instead of monitoring his mind's response to tasting the food. He was simply eating because he was hungry. And it was satisfying in a way his elaborate mindful meals had not been for years. They ate in comfortable silence. When they finished, Lin collected the bowls and washed them in a bucket of water. Again, no ceremony. Just cleaning dishes because they needed cleaning. I don't understand, Koro said. Is this your practice? Just living? What else is there? Lin replied. When dishes are dirty, I wash them. When I am tired, I sleep. When the garden needs weeding, I weed. When a visitor comes, I make tea. Where in this is there room for anything other than practice? But surely you meditate. Study the teachings. Cultivate your mind. Lin sat down on his stool. I sit quietly